Well, hello out there. I guess we're live. Um, Big hello to everyone out there from David and Dave. And the saying of today is a laugh a day keeps COVID at bay. When you do stupid things, you don't have to laugh, but it sure can soften the blow. It can be very helpful to have someone like Dave nearby to use as a scapegoat to get you out of those tight spots. Enough about Dave. Before I start my monologue, I'd like to try showing pictures from last week. So we'll see if these actually do come up. Okay, I got that covering the whole screen, so um, I'm hoping you can see this. It's Mrs. Murakami right here, with also a picture of her and her husband in their field of corn. So it's $100 note, Salt Spring bucks. So I hope you actually saw that this time. So I'm going to come back down to there. And I will also, let's see, they're here. Okay, maybe I'll just go smaller so I know that it's on or not. Oh yeah. Oh, it's only showing part of it. Well, let's do this. Okay, and I'm hoping you can see that whole thing because I cannot see whether what you guys are seeing. This is the crib board that my dad made when he was in Yellowknife. See all the holes and stuff, made out of caribou horn. And I have another picture of the bottom side for authentication. So it's got Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, November 1945. I'll minimize that. Now, yeah, that's a problem here. See if I can move it over. It's hard for me to see the comments right now. But let me see. See, good. Yes, I can. Hi, Dave. So that's my sister Bossy and Lynn, Canada. Anyhow, welcome. So I think there's something else here. We'll just take a look. Oh yeah, here we go. This is from that song about I'm my own grandpa, and you can see, whoops, yeah, you can kind of see all the scribbling and how messy it is. And I've got another one that probably shows it a little bit better, so I'll do that. It's down here somewhere. There. Whoops, where did you go? Oh, there we go. Yeah, so this is like I don't know if you call it a flow chart or something like that, but yeah, it's very confusing. I'm not going to spend any time on it because I could probably look at it for a half an hour and still not be able to figure out what was going on there. But anyhow, I thought that might interest you guys. So I'm going to, let me think here for a second. Yeah, I don't think I can change that much. So I'm going to have a hard time seeing the comments. Oh, there's my sister Janice. I'll have a hard time seeing the comments, but so I'll just try and get to them later. But right now, I'd like to, you know, start on what I'm going to talk about this week, and I'm going to take you back to 1978 when I was excuse me, when I was in Edmonton, and I went on a trip down to Houston to go on a school. So let's see here. Okay, now you should have me full screen. I don't know if you really want that or not, but you're getting it. Okay. So it's too many mices. It's the middle of September 1978, and I was about to drive 2,200 miles to Houston, Texas, for a couple of months to attend an in-house engineering training school conducted by my employer, Dresser Atlas Wireline Services. That's a big mouthful. I needed to get a car to drive down with and to use for personal transportation while in Houston. So I decided to buy a Volkswagen Super Beetle from my buddy Miles Stacy. We agreed on $1,700. So I went back to the bank and got the cash. I think Miles was expecting a check, but I knew he didn't like having lots of cash on him, so I had some fun. Okay, Miles, here's your money, all $1,700 in cash. And I asked for the fewest amount of bills possible. I began to count. 1,000, 500, 100, and 100. It was hilarious to see the look of shock on his face and knowing that he couldn't deposit it till the next morning. In other words, he had to sleep on it. A few days later, I picked up my friend Stan Oldham and we headed south from Edmonton on that long journey to Houston. Our attire of preference was t-shirts, jeans, cut off or full length, and a pair of Adidas cowboy boots. Stan was taking the same course as me, and it was good to have someone for company and also to share the expenses on the trip. We drove for a few hours at 70 to 80 miles an hour, and that little bug didn't even whimper. And soon enough, we were approaching the border crossing at a place called Sweetgrass, Montana. Sweetgrass. The border crossing came into view, and Stan said, "Oh no, I've got one joint left. Hurry, we have to smoke it." So I asked, "Why don't we just turn around and get rid of it or smoke it and then wait a while and come back?" Stan said, "We can't because that will look suspicious and they'll call the cops, and besides it would be a tragic waste if we didn't smoke it. So just drive slowly and we'll quickly smoke it," said Stan. I'm thinking, haven't I seen something like this before? Probably in the movies. We slowly limped our way towards certain disaster. Before I knew it, we finished smoking it, and I thought, how did I allow myself to get talked into this? By the time we reached the border, I couldn't even remember what we had been talking about. The guard asked us the usual questions: where are you from? Where are you going? And how long will you be staying? Of course, paranoia can destroy you. But we were barely able to keep it together. "Why were you driving so slow? Don't you know you can get a ticket for driving too slow?" said the border cop. Sorry. I told myself, think. And I just started talking. The car started acting funny and slowed right down when the engine quit. Then the engine quit, but I noticed It was a downhill slope and decided to coast to here and ask for help. The guard resembled a stereotypical drill sergeant, and I almost started laughing. He said to me, "Okay, why is your car running?" "Oh, sorry," I said, and I turned it off. The guard said, "That was a question. Why is your car running when you said it quit on you?" Stan was barely holding it together, which didn't help me at all. Feeling helpless, I was searching for something to say, and looking around at the same time. There it was, the reserve tank switch. "Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. Perhaps it was your accent that threw me off. Yes, the engine did quit. And while we were coasting, we realized that we were out of gas." He said, "Why was the motor running when you pulled up?" "Oh, that's easy to explain. We switched from the main tank to the reserve tank." Then he says, "Oh, right, a Volkswagen. Good thinking." He asked us to get out and follow him inside to fill out paperwork. "Just stay cool and try to pretend that you're not stoned." "But I am." Both Stan and I, "What's going to happen to us?" When we got inside, there was a counter, and both Stan and I stood in front of it. The guard took off his hat to reveal a military crew cut that made him look even more like a drill sergeant. I couldn't contain myself anymore, so I started laughing. "So what's so darn funny?" asked the drill sergeant. I blurted out, "Oh, nothing. Well, sometimes I just laugh at the stupidest things." "Okay, come on, let's move things along here," said drill sergeant. I was fumbling through my wallet, and drill sergeant turned around to grab something, and I dropped my wallet, and most of its contents fell on the floor. I was on my knees trying to quickly pick everything up, but the harder I tried, the worse things got. By this time, Stan was chuckling, which made it even worse again. That's Stan. But suddenly he stopped, and I could hear drill sergeant say, "Where is he? Where did he go?" Stan was trying so hard not to laugh he couldn't talk. "I'm serious. Where did he go?" By this time I had picked everything up, the wallet in one hand and all the contents in the other, so I slowly raised my hands above counter height and inched myself up into a standing position, and almost started to giggle, but somehow managed to keep things under control. Only a few minutes later, we were back outside and sitting in the car. Drill sergeant walked up to the car and across to the passenger side, then motioned for Stan to roll down the window, which he did. Then drill sergeant pointed to the floor and said to Stan, "The main tank is empty, so you should switch to reserve before you try starting it." "Go ahead, Stan, and switch it," I said. So he switched it, and I said, "Sorry, but I think Stan must have accidentally switched it when he exited the car." Drill sergeant said, "It's a long, long way to Houston, so you boys have yourselves a safe journey." Stan and I left drill sergeant and continued on our merry way. "Hey, Stan, could you please switch her back to the main tank?" He took a long time to switch it because we were both laughing so hard. Just gonna have a throat's a little dry, sorry about this. There we go. The rest of the trip was mostly uneventful, except when we went through Dallas-Fort Worth. We'd been drinking a few beers, finished them, and deposited the empties on the side of the road while we were driving at cruising speed. As we approached the interchange, we became mesmerized by all the different lanes weaving in and out. And it was at least 4 tiers high, and we flew right past our turn. Now, how are we to make sense of this? Oh, what the heck. Let's just go where it takes us. So we soldiered on. A few times Stan said, "Try turning here." So I did. And we continued to increase in elevation and slow to a crawl. Somehow we made it to the top tier of the Dallas-Fort Worth interchange during rush hour. It was somewhat unnerving to drive at that level, especially when you know that all the beer you put away now wants to go away. So with little time to spare, we managed to pull over to an outside lane, got out, went to the passenger side of the car, and relieved ourselves as the motorists, who were going at a snail's pace, honked at us. So, what could we do? We smiled and waved back. I was really embarrassed for about 10 minutes or so. What can you do? It's either that or sit in a puddle for the rest of the trip to Houston. The best way to explain that interchange is to take a few octopi, stack them on top of each other. When we drove through there, it was 4 levels high, and now it's 5 levels high. What a nightmare. We eventually got ourselves unsnarled enough to get heading south on the I-45 to Houston. The next day, we checked in at the training facility in South Houston, and it was huge. We soon learned that everything is bigger in Texas, including mouse and egos. I saw a lot of t-shirts that had a map of the state of Texas covering most of the map of the USA, and written in bold letters was the United States of Texas. And that about explains it. We met with the admissions secretary, filled out our paperwork. She gave us a map of the complex and handed us 2 typed sheets of paper. One had a list of rental units and the other for furniture rentals. She said, "Okay, you need to find a place to rent, and most come unfurnished, so you'll most likely have to rent furniture as well." I'm thinking, did I just hear rent a place? Brutal. Wasn't expecting this. She was very kind and suggested a few places for us to check out. As usual, the heat was oppressive, so we turned on the VW air conditioning. So we, cracked the vent windows and turned them so that the air was channeled right into the car. We looked at 3 or 4 places and settled on the last one of the day. It was a small gated community and within our budget, and we couldn't believe our luck because it had a swimming pool with a diving board. Sold! We moved the next day, but couldn't get the furniture for 4 or 5 more days. That was fine with us because we already had the only piece of furniture we needed, a fridge. Not to be confused with a beer fridge, because every once in a while we did put some food in it. The first thing we did was put our luggage in the apartment, donned our swimming trunks, raced out to the pool and jumped right in. Less than a minute later, a gardener ran over and said, "Get out of the pool right away." I said, "You gotta be kidding me," he replied. "No, I'm not. We just had a bunch of chemicals and put a bunch of chemicals in the pool because we're shutting it down for the winter." We got out in record time, and he was kind enough to hose us down. Stan asked, Why shut it down for winter when it's still September and 90 degrees in the shade? Where are you guys from? Canada. Well, that explains it. So, yeah, there we learning a few things. The next day we showed up for the first class of many classes, which ran 5 days a week from 9 till 4, and we had labs to do on some of the weekends. Like a few of the others, I had an advantage because for almost a year I'd already been doing the job that we were training for. I immediately connected with two classmates. Bill from Bakersfield, California, because he was your typical laid-back Californian and fit right in with most Canadians. I can't remember the name of the other guy, so I'll refer to him as Jethro, and he was from Tyler, Texas. Jethro was a gregarious guy and stood about 6'7" tall, probably tipped the scales at about 260 pounds, and didn't have a beer belly. I have a feeling that I may have actually called him Jethro because if he didn't have his glasses on, he was close to being the spitting image of Jethro Bodine from the Beverly Hillbillies, and he had a similar accent. One day, Jethro told me that he had married 3 times and got divorced twice. I asked, "How does that work?" He said, "Well, I married my first wife and we did a fair amount of arguing, so I thought, well, maybe the grass was greener on the other side, so I divorced her. I then went to the other side and got married a second time to realize that the grass is not greener on the other side, so I divorced my second wife and remarried my first wife." Ooh. I hope you follow that. Jethro, why did you shoot your... sorry. I asked, "Do you still argue a lot?" No, not much, but she really got mad when I shot my TV because she couldn't watch her shows until we got a new one. "Jethro, why did you shoot your TV?" I asked. Jethro said, "My football team lost 3 games in a row and I couldn't take it anymore." Note to self, do not watch football with Jethro. Okay, I'm just going to take a sec here to see if I'm still broadcasting. I'll take this down a bit. Oh yeah, we're still going. Excellent. I'm going to pop it back up. Come on. Another time, Jethro and I went for a drive in my bug. It was a tight squeeze for him to get in, that's for sure. Everything was fine until we approached an intersection, and a car cut right in front of us and stopped so quick that we almost ran into the back of it. I was incensed and opened the door to get out and give them a piece of my mind, just as Jethro reached over and grabbed my arm in a vice-like grip and said, "What are you doing?" "I was just going to talk to them," I said. "Big mistake. There's a 75% chance they have a gun and about a 90% chance they aren't afraid to use it," he said. Thanks, Jethro." A couple of days later, we were driving in Jethro's pickup, and he reaches under his seat and pulls out a handgun and says, "Don't forget, down here these are known as equalizers." How little I knew about the city at that time. Houston's homicide rate peaked in 1978-1979 and was rubbing shoulders with a few other cities for the dubious distinction as the most murders in the country. In 1978, the population of Houston and Dallas-Fort Worth was 2.3 and 2.4 million respectively. This year, it's 6.4 million in Houston and 6.3 million in Dallas, Fort Worth. So about the same population, but it's still a lot of people. One more sip. Don't tell anyone, but it's, what is it? Lemon ginger tea. It's not vodka. My diet consisted of 2 packs of Marlboros a day, the odd cigarello, and maybe a couple of left-handed cigarettes to complement my southpaw tendencies. Beer, frozen margaritas, and tequila shots. I did eat food. Any kind of fast food within reach, and I love soft tacos. Almost forgot the peanuts. We would go to this bar that had an endless supply of peanuts in the shell, which would make me feel good because I could work for my supper by shelling the peanuts and utilizing some of my best assets: stamina, dexterity, and the power of observation. The first time we went there, the place was almost empty, and would have been if we hadn't arrived. The waitress came over, plopped a bowl of peanuts down in front of us, and took our orders. We dove into the peanuts, and boy, did they taste good. We got our drinks. Sorry, I lost my place. We got our drinks and continued eating the peanuts until they were all gone. Because we had such good table manners, all the empty shells were in the bowl. She came over to take another order of drinks, and just as she was about to go, she grabbed a handful of peanuts, threw them over onto the table, then picked the bowl up and dumped it on the floor. So it's like we're thinking, what's going on? She said, "Don't worry, boys. With a little practice, I'm sure you'll get the hang of it. Want some more?" I instantly grew attached to that bar. That was around the same time when backgammon was big, and they had a few boards for patrons. More people came in, and we had us a good time. So that's how I managed to introduce the peanuts into my diet. One weekend, the weather was so nice, a bunch of us headed down south to Galveston for a day trip. It was only an hour, a 1 hour drive, but most of the way down I could hear Glen Campbell singing in my head. Galveston, oh Galveston, I still hear your sea winds blowing. I still see her dark eyes glowing. She was 21 when I left Galveston. Or something like that. Maybe I'll get it right the second time. No matter where I've gone, I've always felt at home by the ocean. Must be those West Coast Salt Spring Island roots. We eventually crossed the long causeway to Galveston Island in the Gulf of Mexico. Wow! The architecture of the well-preserved historical buildings was awesome. I had never seen anything like it before and came to learn that the style is French Romanesque, kind of marrying the best of both worlds. Hey, I do have architectural interests after all. There's also a long pier populated with carnival rides. But keep your eye on the prize. We really wanted to swim because at least twice a day we would see that pool in our backyard that was closed for swimming. We're kind of like children in some ways, in more ways than one. When we weren't thirsty, we were hungry, and vice versa. We were hungry for seafood in particular, so seafood it was. We ate at a place where you pay a flat rate for as much as you can eat. The food was good, and I'm certain they didn't make a dime off of us. Time to hit Galveston Beach on the east side of the island, and wouldn't you know it, they had the beer trained like fish, so they just jumped right in the vehicles as we drove past. True story, maybe? We'll have to stop and pay for them when we return. We pulled up to the beach, and there was hardly anyone there, which didn't seem right because it was a beautiful 90 degrees. And you couldn't ask for better near the end of October. Then I remembered the swimming pool incident, and it all made sense. Yeah. Oh well, the less the merrier. Time to go swimming. I went down and walked right into the lukewarm water, the warmest salt water I had ever been in. We proceeded to have a great time swimming for the next couple of hours, and grabbed another bite to eat and back to the big smoke with Glen Campbell singing in my head. Galveston, oh Galveston, I still hear your sea winds blowing. I still hear her dark eyes glowing. She was 21 when I left Galveston. The Houston Galleria Mall was an impressive place, and like everything in Texas, it was way huge. Far too many upscale shops, as the mall is situated between two of the most affluent districts in the city. Kind of out of my price range, in other words. It had a long arched glass roof running down the entire length of the main structure. I didn't buy anything, but sure got tired from all the walking. And, oh, I almost forgot. One of the big draws was an ice rink. I guess they wanted to show South Texans what ice looks and feels like. For a split second, I thought about going for a skate. Then I gave my head a shake. Why would I come all the way down here to ice skate? This doesn't make sense. Now, another quick drink. Probably the highlight of my trip was going to see Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band play at the Sam Houston Coliseum. Just awesome. About 12 of us piled into a company van that had only 2 front seats, and the rest of the space was open for cargo. So that meant 10 of us were human cargo and had to sit on the floor. We were already well primed for the show as we headed down the ramp to the underground parking. Joe, who is a Canadian lab technician on a course down there, going on a course at the same time, was at the helm. He drove slowly most of the way and said, "I'm not sure if we can make it under that concrete beam." So curiosity got the best of a handful of us in the back, and we got up close to the back of the seats to assess the situation. I wonder. I'm thinking to myself, we could let some of the air out of the tires or to get us a few inches lower maybe if we need to. We were about 30 feet away and in general agreement that it would be very close, and then Joe just buries the gas pedal right to the floor. Some of us fell on the floor and the others that didn't launch themselves to the floor. Joe was screaming like a madman, and one guy yelled, "Joe, you're gonna kill us." We just breezed under and past that beam with no problem at all, other than having to peel our pulses off the roof. Then Joe says, "Yeah, it was just as close when I was here 2 weeks ago." He got us. We were not disappointed with the concert. So many people and awesome music. They played Night Moves, Travelin' Man, Nutbush City Limits, and Beautiful Loser, among others. But my favorite song was Turn the Page. It's always been my favorite song. It began with a single spotlight on the sax player as he played that mournful intro. Then the song ran through, and then same thing when they played the outro. Only the sax player. Here I am on the road again. There I am up on the stage. Here I go playing star again. There I go, turn the page. It is a fairly even, that song is a fairly even keeled and mellow piece, which allows the listener to hear every word as a great storyteller paints an easily recognizable story. It was definitely an unforgettable concert. Some of the guys kept asking us, this is back in back at our place. Some of the guys kept asking us if we wanted to do some group studying in the evenings. And we would say, we're always out learning the local customs and studying peanuts, beer, and tequila. They sure study a lot, so they must have been doing really well. One of the guys in the study group, let's just call him OB wannabe Kenobi, was obsessed with with getting the top mark in the Silver Bullet Award that came with it. We just kept learning about the local customs. Finally, the last day was upon us, awards day. It was kind of a stuffy affair in a convention room, and I say stuffy as, like I always hate going to whatever. It was not exactly what I liked, but anyhow. The food was good, and Stan, Jethro, and I were at the same table. Eventually, the MC went to the podium and said, "It's time to hand out the Silver Bullet Award." And it was a close horse race between 5 people, and then of which he named off the 5 people. I can't remember who the other 2 were, but the 3 of us were in the conversation. We looked at each other and had a good chuckle, especially because Obi, wannabe Kenobi, his name wasn't even on the list. When the winner was announced, the blood immediately drained from my face. I froze, so Stan and Jethro gave me a bit of a shake and said, "Get up there, Dave, it's yours for the taking." And I'm going, I made my way up to the podium where my teacher presented me the award to me. I had a bit of a phobia about talking in front of a bunch of people, so I kept it short and sweet. Thank you, everyone. Once I got back to the table and settled back in my seat, I took a look at the hardware that ironically was made almost entirely of wood. And I said, "This thing's ugly." Jethro said, "No, it isn't. It's butt ugly." It had this 10-inch piece of wood painted silver in the shape of a bullet and a plaque as the base that the bullet was mounted to. I was hoping for a real silver bullet just like the Lone Ranger. Talk about lunch bag letdown. We all agreed that it looked like an erect giant suppository. Jethro was sitting to my right and noticed Obi wannabe Kenobi hovering near our table and said, "Hey, wannabe, come on over and have a sit with us." So Jethro got up to give wannabe his seat and said, You might want to sit here for a while to see if our intelligence rubs off on you. Wannabe wasn't too happy. So Jethro said, "What's wrong? You don't like us?" "Here, I'll up the ante." So Jethro took the trophy and placed it pointy side up on the chair seat and said, "Is this more to your liking?" It took me a long, long time to stop laughing after that one, I'll tell you. The next day, Stan and I began the journey home in a northwesterly direction. Stan wanted to visit family in Vancouver, and I was headed to Salt Spring Island for a visit with my parents. After a couple of days driving, I dropped Stan off and took the ferry to Salt Spring Island. I got home. I still called it home because I was only a couple of years removed from the nest. It was nice to visit my folks and have some good home-cooked meals. I was just itching to see some of my friends that I hadn't connected with for about 2 or 3 years. We decided to meet that evening at the Harbor House Lounge. I think it was Jim, Pete Feiner, and Robert Dixon that I met there. We started out just having some beers and good conversation. Sorry, got a bit of gas here. And then Houston began to rear its ugly head. "Hey, you guys, ever drink tequila shots?" "No." "Okay, I'll show you how it's done. Get some lime, and salt. Lick it and then just knock it back." I thought to myself, I'm going to drink these guys under the table in no time at all because I've had 2 months of practice. Oops. I set a quick pace, and after a few rounds they seemed to be holding their own, kind of surprisingly. We had a few more rounds and I was really feeling it, but they still seemed okay. I don't know how many more I had. The next thing I remember was waking up at home on a bed in the attic bedroom. I didn't feel well at all. Thumping headache, dry mouth, and queasy stomach. I realized that I was naked as a jaybird, which for me was normal. But I couldn't find any of my clothes. Not on the floor, not on the bed, and not in the chair. Oh no. I went into stealth mode and slowly made my way downstairs and started picking up my clothes and grabbed the final item outside the bathroom door, ducked inside and got dressed. Dodged a bullet. I was in desperate need of a cup of coffee, so I walked into the kitchen dining area. Mom and Dad were seated and drinking coffee, so I asked if I could get some coffee. "Sure, help yourself," said Mom. I sat down and felt that something's not quite kosher. "How was it last night?" they asked me. "Oh, pretty good, but I may have had one too many tequila shots." "Do you remember getting home?" "No, not really." Now I was really starting to squirm in my seat. Dad said, "Sometime around 1:30 a.m., your mother and I woke up because it was so hot in our bed. And your mother asked me why it was so hot, and that's when I said to her, 'I think David's in bed with us.' And your mother said, 'What? Oh my God, he is.' So we managed to rouse you enough to prod and steer you out of the bed and upstairs to bed. by this time, my face was so red I thought it was burning. Dad said, the worst part was getting you up the stairs. And Mom said, it looked hilarious because your dad was behind you trying to push you up the stairs and your naked butt was staring him right in the face. And I said, well, I was going to ask if I had any clothes on when I jumped into bed with the two of you, but I think you've already answered my question. They had a good laugh over my, let's say, misfortune. A few days later, my friends told me that after drinking the first 2 or 3 shots, they just pretended to drink and tossed the tequila behind them onto the floor. Now, it all makes sense, I said. That was a big waste of money. And they said to me, yeah, your money. And smiled. Can't argue with that, was my reply. Just before getting into my car, one of them pipes up and says, don't forget which room is yours. Oh, and that's the end of it. Actually, after that, it was like inconsequential ride back up to Edmonton. How are we doing for time? Oh, I'm almost over time here. Let me see what else I had. I'll get out of this big face mode. Maybe I'll. Okay, let me just look at what's on here. Jacqueline's here. Jocelyn, I know it was coming. Jill Bardell, uh-oh. Carolyn Langdon, ha ha ha. Jill Bardell, LOL. Jocelyn Gerard, don't tell my sisters. Veronica Sicily, I know this story. You know, I think I've got one more thing here, and I'll put it up. Kind of overtime, but and this is about. I was going to pull up a picture of my when I bashed my head on the sidewalk, but I think most people have seen it anyhow. So, and this is called the Pumpkin Smash, and it's sung to the tune of the Monster Mass. So you can sing along with me if you want. We all came out from our humble abodes to get another jolt from the mother lode. He from his apartment in the West End East to St. James and Kitts, where the singers feast. He did the smash. He did the pumpkin smash. The pumpkin smash. It was a sidewalk bash. He did the smash. It caught on in a flash. He did the smash. He did the pumpkin smash. The dim wit walked briskly down a dim-lit street, where he caught his toe on uneven concrete. Then the slap towards his face began to rise, and suddenly, to his surprise, he did the smash. He did the pumpkin smash. The pumpkin smash. It was a sidewalk bash. He did the smash. It caught on in a flash. He did the smash. He did the pumpkin smash. Once gravity takes over, there's little one can do. So the fuse was lit for the sidewalk blues. Thoughts of stop, drop, and roll seem rather smug, as inertia dictates trip, hug, and mug. He did the smash. He did the pumpkin smash. The pumpkin smash. It was a sidewalk bash. He did the smash. It caught on in a flash. He did the smash. He did the pumpkin smash. There is a sidewalk bug walking through the city. The seams aren't level, but must be the work of the devil. The sidewalk wins as it flat out lies and sins. Dreaming of the past, sidewalks come up fast. He did the smash. He did the pumpkin smash. The pumpkin smash. It was a sidewalk bash. He did the smash. It caught on in a flash. He did the smash. He did the pumpkin smash. I got out of it. Now I'm just going to get myself up really quick and say, oh, before I do that, just checking the comments again, but enough of that. I'll check them later. So, where we are. Okay. So, thank you everybody for joining me this evening. I hope you had a laugh or two, because I really do believe that that is a big part of the COVID cure. Sayonara. Peace out. Love you all.